So it's development moves, attacking moves, defending moves, repositioning moves, and moves that do nothing. All right, so first of all, E3, I mean, it's very, very passive, right? It does not try and take immediate control of the center. So this to me already tells me that this kind of player is going to look for something a bit more weird, right? Which is exactly what he did, right? He did this whole funny stuff with the bishop and try and attack you immediately.
Yeah.
Right? Now, one has to kind of see this coming, which will make your task a little bit easier to deal with this attack. All right, but okay, let's go forward. C5, fine, nothing wrong with that. C4, okay. Knight C6, fine. A3, okay. This move does nothing. All right, it does not stop you from going. Knight B4 was never a thing. Like this was. What was your knight gonna do on B4?
Yeah.
You know, so there's no reason to stop you from going to B4 at all. So what does this move do? It does nothing.
Yeah, that's fair. It doesn't really develop anything. I wrote it off as some wacky theory I didn't know because he's 1800, so...
No, exactly. Look, this is the thing, right? You can even find very high-rated players. At my level, I find 2,400s that make moves like this on the regular, where it's like, that's a complete waste of time, all right?
Okay.
All right, here's a quick question for you. Do you know what a weak square is?
I suppose a weak square is any square that has more attackers on it than defenders?
The simpler definition is a square within this range, all right? We can sometimes have squares on the 7th rank as well, of course, so the 2nd rank. But in this range of the board, any square that cannot be defended by a pawn is considered to be a weak square. So simply put, these squares can no longer be defended by pawns.
Okay, so that's creating weaknesses with random pawn
Exactly.
pushes.
So practically speaking, these are weak squares. Now, please note, just because a square is weak doesn't mean we can do something about it, right? All right. So like your move, of course, attacks the center and it's a development move. So perfectly good, right? He goes B3, another pawn move, all right? But this pawn move does help him develop. B3, G6, this is all great. And now it's obvious as to his plan here. First of all, he did not develop his knight because he wants to keep that bishop line open for attacking H5.
Yeah.
But this means that his king is in the center. For me, the simplest thing to do when your opponent wants to start an attack like this very early with the king in the middle of the board, the best place to play is in the center. Why? Because there are two conditions. So there's we're going to be talking a lot about principles and ideas of just thinking about stuff in a basic manner. All right. For you to be able to attack someone's king, there are two simple conditions required to be successful. The first is you must be able to breach the wall. The wall here refers to the pawns in front of the king, right? If you've castled, you need to find a way into the guy's king. Otherwise, you can't get past the pawns. All right, so that's condition number one. We need to be able to get past the pawns. All right, so breaching the wall. The second is you must have more attackers than defenders. It's a simple concept, but you need to have more attackers than defenders. Otherwise, how are you supposed to break through? He maximum has these 5 pieces to use to attack with. And if he's not going to use the knight, then technically he only has 4. Which means we only need 4 defenders. So we have no concern here about the second condition. We don't have to worry about not having enough defenders versus attackers. If you now play in the center with his king in the middle of the board, right? Especially if you've castled. This is another big reason why we castle, is then your rooks are obviously already in the middle of the board, right? They're connected, they get into the middle of the board. That's the idea. Yes, somebody is pointing out D5 here. D5 could be very fun to play right away. Just throw it out there, attack the center immediately. Why? If he takes here, your queen comes out. Now you're attacking this, which is a nuisance for him.
Okay.
Now you're making threats in the middle of the board whilst he is still here. And you can castle whenever you're ready, right? There's no issue here. You're not worried about this. This guy cannot be defended by another pawn, which makes it weak. So earlier it was a square that was weak, right? When we looked at it here, it was the square that was weak. But by moving the pawn to that square, now the pawn technically is weak as well. Now he's gonna have to make moves like this, which takes away him from his attack. Now he no longer has this. But even in your game, you played castle, which is fine. Same thing. Start with d5. Just bam, smack the center, go nuts. Let's say he plays h5. Ignore him as long as you possibly can, because the more moves you ignore, the more moves you can make in the center. For example, now we can play d4. Now you're shutting out this bishop. Now he's basically fighting with these three guys.
Yeah.
Versus this guy can help this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this. They can all help your king. So let's look. He goes here. Let's say we take with this pawn, all right? Because that gives us a semi-open f file. Why not? We want to attack that king in the middle of the board. Let's gun it. They play here. You just drop back. Who cares? It doesn't affect your bishop. Your bishop is still on the line that it was on before. Somebody pointing out bishop h5 as a wacky sack. Yeah, got it, dude, got it. Ignore. Okay, here you could probably just take it, because again, he doesn't have enough attackers to continue this attack. All right. So
okay.
Losing more attackers doesn't help him here. How does this help him? You know, we take what's going to sack some more. Please go ahead. Sack everything you want. It doesn't matter anymore, because you're attacking with one piece. What's she gonna do on her own? She can't attack everything on her own, right? Now you bring out your bishop goes and sits here. Your whole formation is great. Your king is safe, and you're up a crap load of material. So,
okay.
So that is the quickest way you could have dealt with this. So after h4, you play d5. Yes. Again, if he takes, you can even probably. I mean, now you can take with the queen, right? Because you're attacking here. Let's say he goes here. That's a little interesting in between move, right? You could probably put your queen here. Well, why not? Queen sits lovely here in this little hole that she found for herself. Why not? All right. And now let's say he continues on with the attack, right? Then we play this again. We're developing and we're attacking at the same time.
Yeah.
And we can ignore it. What do we care? Again, he doesn't have enough attackers. He's attacking again. He's attacking with 4 pieces max. And you already have 4 around your king, plus your queen is technically here whenever needed.
Okay.
So he's never going to break through. It's impossible. It just doesn't work.
That is really helpful.
If you don't allow it.
The only opening I do for black. And
See,
I get got by that a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is, I also play G6 variations a lot. You know, King's Indian type of lines and stuff like that. So I know a lot of the theory as well. Yes, so that's why I say I've had to deal with this kind of issue myself as well. All right, so here's another example. So you play E4 as white. Okay, great. So, all right, so we have a modern defense. Bull crap here. All right.
Yeah.
Nothing too weird. Okay, this is cute. Okay, this is interesting to me because he is asking for trouble. Okay, you play queen here, fine. Castles, d4, yeah, all right. See, again, all right, move that does nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, theoretically the move is so you can play b5 and attack your bishop and then develop. Okay, so technically it's not terrible, I suppose. It's not the worst move I've ever seen in my life. But, you know, right now it's just irrelevant, right? I mean, a simple move like this would have just been much better. Look at your lovely center you've got going here. He's got nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's got to get some skin in the game. Even c5 here is fine as well. If you're going to play this, you have to make one of these moves at some point.
Okay.
And earlier is better. You know what I mean? Just the sooner that happens, the better. Because now, after a6, you very likely could play this. It's just a really, really nasty little move for him to have to deal with now. Let's say he takes, you take with a pawn, okay? Note that our queen is obviously not on this line, so that's great. Which means after we castle, we're going to play rook d1 with a tempo to take the file.
Yep.
Okay? Now he has to be very careful where he goes. If he goes this way, you have this. Super annoying now. These types of attacks, by the way, are extremely annoying for black to have to deal with. For example, if they take here, king goes here, knight here, and now suddenly he's got problems to solve already.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that's why I say one has to play one of these moves quick, just to be able to not give white that easy, smooth breaking the center kind of idea here. All right.
Okay.
So a6 again. You needed to identify that this move does nothing for him.
Okay.
Which means that you have some speed on your hands here, right? Openings is about efficiency. One thing I want to reiterate here, and this is for all of chat as well, okay, is that you guys, if you want to be able to recognize these situations and use the things you learn, you have to play longer games because this stuff takes time. it takes so much time for me to sit here and be like, huh, a6, that doesn't look right. Okay, let me see. Can I do something immediately because of it? I'd rather have you play 130 plus game and make it a quality game than have 3 or 4, whatever, 10-minute games. Okay, so what happened in the rest of the game? Okay, you castled. He pinned your knights. Okay, who cares? Okay, you played e5. I like it. I like it that you still play it. Okay, here. Okay, so now we have to be careful because this pawn is hanging.
Okay.
Now, there's a couple of cute ways that we could deal with this problem. Ooh, there's actually a very interesting thing. So, all right, another big thing I want you to just remember in any opening for black or white, all right? Whenever this bishop or this bishop moves.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a consequence, right? Is they leave this pawn unguarded.
Yes.
All right, so have a little bit of a look here. It's a bit of a weird one, but have a look if you can find, I would call it a forca. Yes, exactly, right? It's a cute little move to just be annoying.
Yeah. I like that.
All right, so for example, let's say we go here, he takes, we take. Now we're still threatening this. So even if he goes here, we go here, we're threatening to win the rook, right? So it doesn't matter that our bishop is technically hanging.
Yeah.
Okay, so we lost the pawn, he lost the pawn. It's equal, right? So it's not like we lost out in this deal from a material point of view. And what we gained in this is look at his weak pawns now. Remember, pawn, it cannot be defended by another pawn. Bam. Isolated pawns that have no pawns on their sides is automatically weak. So he's got 2 isolated pawns versus your lovely little chains that you still have. So let's say he goes something like blah, right? Just develops and defends. You move your bishop, let's say blah, whatever. Now we just need to finish our development. Ooh, is my queen trapped? I have to be careful, I guess. No, it's not trapped. Whew. For a second, I was like, wait a minute. My queen is trapped now. If he goes here, you can just take it. It's fine. And you can get out. So that might have been a cute idea.
Yes.
Now, we obviously don't have to do that either. This move is still very interesting. Because now, if we take, and he goes here, we still have the potential for this, but more so we could probably just hunt this pawn because it's an isolated pawn. Once again, a weak pawn. Bam and bam.
You want to take it from here, Bam Bam? Bam Bam, Bam Bam, Bam! You want to take it from here, Emerald? Bam!
It's easy for us to just put pressure on that pawn as well. So that's probably the simpler way to play here, is just to go after the pawn because it's such an easy weakness. And we get to develop and attack it at the same time, which is a bonus. You'll find stronger players will play this move. Just because then the knight's not being attacked. And they can ignore you. If you go here, they can even play f5.
Okay.
That pawn might look a little bit annoying here, but if he can just play it correctly, then the pawn doesn't need to be an issue.
Fine.
For example,
Yeah.
obviously you're pinned, right? So even if you could play this, just as an example, like let's say your queen wasn't hanging, right? For this square, then he just plays here. And he defends the square. So it's not a train smash here for him. But yes, after this move, I suppose now this pin is annoying. Now e5 is a little bit more tricky to play because, of course, your queen and your knight is being hit by the bishop, which means that your defense of e5 is compromised, right? For example, like if you go here, 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 if he didn't have to move the knight, right? Well, I mean, technically, I guess he doesn't have to, right? So let's say here, you take. Now, of course, the pawn is completely undefended. Luckily, you are attacking his knight, so it doesn't matter. So maybe a simpler option here for you was just to immediately get rid of that. You know, chase that thing away. He takes, and then now this is still on top, of course. Now, if you play something like this, you could probably keep it simple here and just, well, I mean, we don't have to do anything, right? So whatever. Let's just, because you have a defense, right? So who cares? This was still okay, I guess, because you do, yeah, so it does kind of work out the same, right? It does work out quite the same. Yeah, this is a big risk, unfortunately. So now you just lose the queen, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. I think shortly after I have resigned. In this one.
Yeah. Which is fair. I completely agree with the resignation there. No reason to torture yourself after that. Yeah. So had you moved here, I think it's okay. I mean, there's no way to trap your queen anymore, so it's not an issue. You can just hide. You know, if he goes here, you go here, and then you get out anyway via c5. So it's not like he can trap you. If he goes here, you go here. There's no way to hold you down. So you were fine,
But that
except
was a
for that
blunder.
move.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have a bit more of a representation. All right, so you play c3. Interesting. I have a little line for the black players. I'm gonna flip the board here real quick. I'm gonna show just the people a real quick line here as black, which is a very old line. Okay, so there's two options here for black that you can play besides knight f6, and a lot of modern day players and players you're playing against are not gonna know this, because of course it's been forgotten, right? Korchnoi used to say that everything that's been forgotten is new. You can do one of two things. You either play d6 first or bishop b6 first. Now they both transpose into the same thing, because if I play bishop b6, then of course I don't have to move my bishop when it's here. And if I play d6, I'm just gonna move bishop b6 after this anyway, right?
Okay.
So d6, bishop here, here, and takes. Now note if you take here, then they can just take. If you take with a knight, then they just take here. If you take with the king, then they just take here.
Yeah.
So that's why you can't win the pawn back. And vice versa, if you take here first, they take, you take, they have the little deflection idea here. But here's a fun way to play this for black. You play bishop g4. Okay, we develop, we pin the knight. Now, of course, you are threatening to just win back your pawn because the knight's pinned. Okay, they take here. You're like, okay, cool, bro. You keep taking pawns. I don't give a crap about that, okay? This is a proper gambit again. So we develop the knight, right? It's about king safety. He takes this pawn. Now we take with the queen, castle, and you castle. And now the question is, what does white do? This move comes with tempo. This move comes with tempo. If you were white here, right? Like, what would your instincts be to play? Don't think about it too much. Just what would your instincts be?
I mean,
so we can show some.
I don't know if this is what
here.
happened in the game, but I'd probably try and kick that, the bishop.
Exactly, right? So h3 looks super tempting. Okay,
Yeah.
now this is a perfect little place to show you attacking the castle king. Who would you count in this little square here that I made here in blue? Who would you count as attackers for black? How many of black's pieces can get into that square or attack squares in that square within a move or two?
We've got at least 3.
Who? Highlight them for me.
The bishops and the queen.
All right, we could very likely use this knight as well. This knight is not exactly very far away, right?
Yeah.
All right, and here's a bit of a weirder one. Sometimes we can count pieces that take 2 or 3 moves as well. So for example, this one would be a tempo, and then it could go here, and if the knight's out of the way, it can also join the fight very fast. We have a lot of potential attackers here, and this is a very big weakness of h3, is if you have a bishop here, this square now suddenly becomes massively weak.
Yeah.
Bam. Just bam. Now, we don't play it right now, but this is the problem, right? This is the issue that he has right now, is that move is disgustingly painful to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay? So, what do we do here? We take the knight because he can't take here. People don't realize that you can't make this move because of this. And you just lose a piece.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's just a simple fork. So there you just lose a piece.
Is it? What about... Okay,
yeah, but I still have 2 attackers, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. 2 attackers is 1 defender. Yep. So he's bossed. So he has to take with a pawn. Now Miss Queenie says, well, why, thank you. I'll come into this square now. Thank you, buddy. He goes here. We go check. He goes here. And now knight here. Look how they're coming in, right? This guy's still here. He's still helping. The queen is here. This knight's helping here. This knight's ready to pounce in when this pawn disappears. And of course, this guy is ready to come and finish the job whenever needed. So now he has to play this. Now we play here. Attacking the queen. Now the most logical move here would probably just be the development move of some sort to get out of the way, right? And then maybe just rook d6. Because how do you stop me from getting here?
So does that all go wrong as of the point of pushing c3?
Yes. No. White could have played this perfectly fine, of course. If white understands what's happening, right, then it would have been fine. You would have been fine. So this is just if white's greedy and he takes all of these pawns, right? That's the typical thing of a gambit, right? Is that we give you some pawns, but we get quick development, we get our king to safety, and if you're not careful, we can attack really fast. This is just an example of what could happen if your opponent is greedy and grabs all those pawns. Now, the weird thing about this position, by the way, if you turn the engine on here before you play h3, so obviously h3 is a bad move, all right? But if I turn on the engine here, right? You'll see that white is up 2 pawns, but the engine only gives him plus 0.2.
So
And he has to play perfect, by the way. He has to play really... The next 7 moves, white has to thread a line. Because if he makes any move that does not, get him out of this mess quickly, and of course he's going to give back some material, you're going to win back some of the pawns, then yeah, if he doesn't do that, he's in a lot of trouble. Very, very quickly.